Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to a deep dive into something that's, well, it's absolutely everywhere right now, artificial intelligence. But we're looking at it through a specific lens, one that's fascinating and honestly, it may be a little alarming, how it's being used in the fight against fraud.
Yeah, it really is one of those perfect examples, isn't it? Technology that can be this incredibly powerful tool for good,
Right.
helping solve really complex problems. But at the same time, it's being weaponized. Criminals are adopting it very, very quickly.
Exactly. And we've got some great material to guide us today. Primarily, there's this comprehensive guide from the UK government and its partners.
Ah, yeah, I've seen that. It's pretty thorough.
It really is, packed with definitions, real-world examples, insights from different agencies, international collaborators too.
So the mission here is to really get to grips with it all, cut through the hype. Understand what AI actually is. See how it's, well, dramatically changing the game for both sides, fighting fraud and committing it.
Okay.
And maybe highlight the big challenges. Things like oversight, transparency.
Making sure it's used the right way.
Precisely. That's crucial.
Because, as the source material makes pretty clear right up front, this tech is moving at lightning speed, and the fraudsters, they aren't waiting around.
No, they certainly aren't. We have to keep pace.
It feels like a constant race.
It is. Criminals are always analyzing data, always looking for vulnerabilities, developing new angles. If we don't leverage the same kind of tech advantage, well, we're immediately falling behind.
So let's start right at the beginning then. When we talk about AI in this fraud context, what are we actually talking about? What's the core idea?
Okay, so at its heart, AI is about giving machines the capability to do tasks that usually need human cognitive skills, thinking, learning, problem solving, to reach a particular goal.
And a big part of that is the learning aspect, right? The source mentions machine learning.
Yes, machine learning is absolutely fundamental here. It's where algorithms learn to spot patterns in data without you explicitly programming every single rule.
Ah, okay.
The system essentially figures things out itself by looking at tons and tons of examples.
So like teaching it to spot a dodgy transaction by just feeding it thousands of past examples, some fraudulent, some not.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
And within machine learning, you often hear about supervised learning and unsupervised learning.
Right.
So supervised learning uses labeled data. You give the algorithm data where you already know the answer.
Like this one is fraud, this one isn't.
Precisely. It learns to map the inputs to those known outputs, so it can then make predictions or classify new data.
Okay, got it. You give it the answers first to learn from. And unsupervised, how's that different?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. It works with raw, unlabeled data. The algorithm just explores it on its own.
So no predefined answers.
Nope. It looks for inherent structures, maybe clusters of similar things, or anomalies, stuff that looks really different, without being told specifically what to find, like discovering hidden groups or weird outliers in a massive data set.
So if we strip it right back, AI for problem solving, it's really about combining clever computer science with good, robust data sets so these systems can learn and, well, act.
That's a really good way to put it. Yeah, leveraging computing power and the insights hidden in data.
And, it feels like AI just sort of exploded onto the scene very recently, but it's actually been bubbling away for decades.
Oh, absolutely. The timeline in the source material really highlights that. The term itself, back in the 1950s?
Yeah.
And we had those early milestones like the Turing test, chatbots like Eliza back in '66, AI beating humans at games.
Right, checkers in the 50s, and then the big one, IBM's Deep Blue beating Kasparov at chess in '97.
And then things started getting more consumer-focused. Voice recognition improved.
Leading into the virtual assistants we all use now, Siri started in 2011, Alexa in 2014.
Exactly. These were all important building blocks. But what's really changed, the reason for this huge surge in discussion and capability now, it's the widespread access to really powerful AI tools and these enormous data sets.
Right. The timeline points to things like GPT-3 in 2020, then ChatGPT in 2022. That really puts sophisticated AI into millions of hands.
And that accessibility, well, it's a classic double-edged sword, especially when you look at fraud.
Okay, let's talk about one of the biggest recent developments then. Generative AI. The source defines this as AI systems that can actually create new content.
Yeah, that's the key difference. Taking existing data and generating something novel. Could be text, images, audio, video.
Yeah.
Often just from a simple text prompt.
And the engine behind a lot of this is large language models, right? LLMs, trained on just vast amounts of text from the internet.
That's right. These models learn the underlying patterns, the grammar, the style, all from that massive input. and you give them a prompt, and they generate new text that sort of statistically fits, predicting the most likely next word or sequence of words.
And here's where you really see that dual nature you mentioned. GNAI offers amazing potential for fighting fraud. The source mentions agencies like the Serious Fraud Office using it.
Yeah, for analyzing and summarizing just huge, complex data sets incredibly quickly.
That must be a game changer, sifting through mountains of evidence.
Absolutely, it saves potentially thousands of hours of manual review. But then there's the dark side.
Right. Fraudsters are using generative AI to create incredibly convincing fake content for attacks.
Exactly. If an LLM can mimic human writing styles that well, it can churn out vast numbers of highly plausible phishing emails or smishing texts, things that look genuinely legitimate, maybe even personalized.
So it gives them scale and authenticity?
At the same time, yeah. And that capability flows directly into deepfakes.
Okay, explain deepfakes in this context.
So this is using AI to manipulate existing content, videos, images, audio to create synthetic media. It looks or sounds real, but it's completely fabricated.
It's impersonation through technology.
Basically, yes. And it's becoming a really significant threat in fraud. We're seeing things like voice takeovers.
How does that work?
Someone clones a person's voice using AI. Then they can use that cloned voice to try and bypass security, like voice recognition systems on accounts. Or just to convince someone on the phone to do something they shouldn't, like transfer money.
Wow. Or impersonating officials, using fake audio or video to pretend to be from a bank or the government.
That too. The source brings up a really stark example from 2020, that Japanese company case.
I remember reading about that. It's chilling. The branch manager was tricked into transferring, what, $35 million?
Yeah, because he genuinely believed he was on a call with the company director. But the director's voice had been cloned using deep voice technology.
And it wasn't just the voice, was it?
No, and that's crucial. The source notes it was part of a much bigger, quite elaborate scheme. There were emails that seemed legitimate, other individuals involved, all corroborating the fake voice instruction. It was layered deception.
Layered, yeah. And the really worrying takeaway the source emphasizes: these AI tools for creating fakes. They're getting better, easier to get hold of, and cheaper.
The barrier to entry is just dropping rapidly. What used to need serious tech expertise and resources, well, now it can often be done with readily available software.
Absolutely terrifying. And speaking of really impactful personal uses, AI is showing up in romance fraud now too. The source specifically calls this out.
Yeah, this is where it gets particularly nasty.
Yeah.
Using the technology for deep emotional manipulation. Fraudsters are using deepfakes, creating video calls.
So the victim thinks they're really talking to the person?
Exactly, someone they've built what they believe is a genuine connection with online.
Victim Support, the charity, they warned about this specifically, didn't they? Fraudsters using deepfake video clips to build trust, then exploit it.
They did. And there's a heartbreaking example cited in the material. A victim in their 50s lost £350,000 over 2 years.
$350,000?
The scammer used deepfake video calls, even sent digitally altered photos like a fake marriage proposal picture.
Oh my God.
The victim was completely convinced the fraudster was real and in terrible danger, held hostage, tortured. It led them to withdraw their pension, sell possessions, just desperately trying to send money to help.
You just can't imagine the emotional distress.
It's devastating, and the expert's warning is stark. The tech is getting better, and deepfakes are a dangerous tactic because they create such a powerful illusion.
And it's not just the videos, is it? AI chatbots are involved in romance fraud too.
Yes, absolutely. They can generate incredibly realistic online profiles, and they can engage in believable, emotionally manipulative conversations.
Right.
Think about it. A sophisticated chatbot could maintain convincing dialogue, maybe across multiple platforms, potentially at a massive scale, identifying and luring lots of susceptible targets at once.
The source mentions something called LoveGPT, using ChatGPT text specifically for dating sites.
Yeah, it's basically automating that initial grooming phase, building rapport, faking emotional connection, and then voice cloning can come into play.
To create fake phone calls.
Counterfeit conversations that imitate a specific person's voice. Maybe someone the victim thinks they know, or the fake persona from the dating app.
So for digital impersonations on these platforms, you might only need, what, a short recording of someone's voice?
Potentially, yeah. A brief recording, maybe some background details scraped from social media.
Yeah.
enough to create convincing audio interactions.
And again, weaponized to manipulate victims for money or sensitive info.
Exactly, which makes recognizing the red flags so important. The source lists some key ones.
Like sudden emergencies needing money.
Yeah, or personal details urgently. Requests for weird payment methods like gift cards.
Right, always a classic sign.
Promises of huge returns for minimal effort, or unexpected business offers popping up out of nowhere.
Okay, so it's really clear fraudsters are jumping on AI tools. Which brings us to the bigger picture. The challenges we're facing now.
Well, the biggest challenge is probably the speed mismatch. Technology is evolving exponentially fast. Legislation, enforcement methods, they just struggle to keep up.
We're constantly playing catch-up.
Constantly. It's incredibly hard to regulate or build effective enforcement around tools that change so fundamentally, sometimes month by month.
And actually taking action against these AI-powered fraud techniques, the source says it's not mature. We're still figuring it out.
We are. Plus, AI lets criminals operate across borders instantly, at scale, with a level of realistic detail that makes detection harder.
So tracking them, dismantling operations, it's hugely complex. Needs international cooperation.
Which adds another layer of difficulty, of course.
It's not all defense, right? AI is also a huge opportunity for fighting back.
Oh, absolutely. A massive opportunity, especially for the public sector. Harnessing AI to analyze these vast data sets quickly, effectively, that's key to detecting and preventing fraud in a modern way.
The potential uses seem pretty broad. Identifying fraud before it happens, helping investigations.
Definitely. Reviewing evidence, summarizing complex documents, finding those subtle patterns humans might miss, even potentially predicting future risks.
Predicting risks, how would that work?
Well, given the right data, AI might help anticipate where fraud is likely to occur next, or how new schemes might emerge, moving from just reacting to being more proactive.
But using it responsibly, that's key. There need to be ground rules.
Absolutely. The source guide draws on principles from groups like the International Public Sector Fraud Forum, the IPSFF, and the Five Eyes Nations, key international security partners.
Okay, so what are some of those core principles for using AI in counter fraud?
Well, first up is accuracy. Any AI tool has to be rigorously tested against independent data before you deploy it and retrained regularly. You need to know it's actually correct and not drifting or becoming biased.
Makes sense. What else?